See, death is a social thing. It is not existentially right to say death, because a certain life, like we were talking about bubbles as an analogy, let's continue that bubble. So right now you've blown that big bubble. This bubble has a material, the soap. Depending upon the soap quality, the tenacity of the bubble and how long it lasts is determined by the type of soap and the quality of soap and whatever. So this soap or this structure for this is what we are traditionally referring to as karma. What karma means is accumulated memory which is giving us a shape and a form. So as long as this karmic memory is there, it will contain this life inside. So right now, let's say you were born as this big bubble, but this time around you really made some efforts and made this into this big bubble, possible. So suppose now, let me not take you as an example, let's say I die, okay? It's easy for me to die So if I die right now, well, I leave the body here because the body is just what we have collected from this planet, it has to go back. It's just a material that you picked up to walk through this planet, to do activity in this planet, but the life that you are is still contained in your karmic bubble. Life itself is not yours. That we are referring to as consciousness or life is not yours, it is always there, but you have captured this much. Depending upon how much life you capture, see, it is not just about the data, it's not about the intelligence. Depending upon how much life you capture, accordingly the significance of your life will be determined by that. When I say significance, you as a life, not socially significant, not significant in the world, that is just a consequence. In certain times, people may recognize that significance, in another time they may not recognize. If you came here 1,000 years ago and you say, I'm a neurologist, they'll just dismiss you, can you wield a sword or not? That's all they would ask you in Brussels, all right? If you cannot, you're out. So I'm saying today in 21st century, you being a neurologist is important because there is a situation, it's a consequence of time. So let's not take that activity as the basis. But the profoundness of your experience is determined by how much life you have captured, how significant you feel when you sit here, not in the context of society, not with reference to somebody else, not comparing myself to somebody and saying I'm bigger than somebody, but when you simply sit here, this is why closing eyes is so important. When you close your eyes, you've shut off the world. When you sit here, what is the significance of your existence? This is determined by how much life you capture. So the entire yogic system or one important dimension of yogic system is to see how I capture more life into this one, so that if I sit here, this is a very significant life. Whether others will understand the significance, whether the significance will find expression in the world or not, these are subject to variety of outside realities. But in your experience, you are phenomenally significant because you captured such an immense possibility of life. So once this happens, now it is held together by this karmic bubble, or let us say it's a kind of a software. Most of the software may be gathered unconsciously, but it is a certain kind of software which holds this together. Even if we die, the body gets left here, discerning mind goes with the body, rest of the information, and this is already there. But now because there is no discerning mind, this bubble cannot go where it wants to go. Now, it will just go by its tendencies. It's very beautifully described. In the yogic culture, we call these tendencies as vasanas. The word vasana literally means smell. So it depends what kind of smell it has. Accordingly, it gets drawn to certain things, accordingly it will draw certain things towards itself, depending upon how vibrant this karma is, accordingly it stays in a limbo for that kind of period. If it is already become very feeble, it will try to find another form, physical form. If it is not become feeble, it exists by itself for a certain period of time. When I say period of time, when we are in the body, see right now, for you to know how long we've been sitting here, you don't have to look at your watch. You just ask your lower back, it will tell you how long you've been sitting here. Or you ask your urinary bladder, it'll tell you how long you've been sitting here. So body is keeping time. Time is a concern for us only because we have a physical body. If we did not have a physical body, we can sit here for 10,000 years, there's no problem. So once you don't have a physical body, the time-space experience is not the same, but still the experience of being pleasant or unpleasant is still there. There's a whole dimension to this. I think Bala, you must send Stephen the death book. I just published a book on death, it's been an 8-year work and it's just come out, and I'll ask Bala to send it to you, or we can send it from UK.
Thank you.
Stephen, so couple of questions to Sadhguru, right? So what determines…
I hope I have not said something very unscientific that keeps you…
Oh, yes you did, oh yes you did.
That was the idea.
That's why I'm here.
That was the idea.
What determines how much life you capture, Sadhguru?
One thing is, you must have enough software, that means you must have enough karma. So most of the time, people are trying to avoid karma. When I say avoid karma, people are trying to minimize their imprints in life in so many ways as to what they take in. Suppose, let's say I don't like you, Bala, that's not a fact, I'm just telling you as an example. Suppose I really don't like you, I just can't stand you. So what will I do? I will avoid you. This means what? I'm trying to avoid some nasty impressions that may come upon me if I meet you. Now you're avoiding karmic material. So this is why in yoga we say, somebody comes and says, I don't like this person, then I put those two people in the same department so that every day they build some karma and learn to transcend that. This is not a social process. There is an internal process to this, that you're taking in imprints but not reacting to it, because your experience becomes beautiful or nasty depending upon how you react to it. So first and most fundamental training that you need to go through is, you learn to respond, not react. Reaction is instinctive, reaction is based on past memory and conclusions that we have made. Response is happening out of your conscious response right now. So you learn to respond, not react. Once you learn to respond and not react, you will take a tremendous amount of material because you have no hesitation about anything for that matter. Once you have so much karmic substance, now you can blow a big bubble. You need good soap to make a big bubble, not air. There's no dearth for air, there's a whole bubble of atmosphere out here. But what you need is a certain tenacious soap which will blow a big bubble for you. Otherwise, if you have no, I don't want to name any brand, some brand came to my mind. If you have a bad soap, only this big bubble will come. If you try to make this, it'll go put. So if you want to blow a big bubble, what is needed is not air, because air is anyway there. At least in the context of who we are, it is a limitless amount of air. It is not really limitless, but still it is limitless from the context of our lungs at least, it's quite limitless. So there is limitless amount of air, there is limitless amount of life and consciousness in the universe, but the question is, do you have the necessary quality soap to blow it big and hold it? So you don't avoid anything when something outside of you does not determine the nature of your experience, that is when you're willing to take on everything. When something outside of you makes you either happy or unhappy, you will try to choose only those things which give you pleasant experiences, those things which give you unpleasant experiences you will try to shun. So if you really look at in the world, most people, if you look at people's experiences in the world, most people can't stand almost the entire humanity. Their neighbor means must stop there only. Friend means still here, but he must stop here. If he crosses this line, there will be trouble. Well, a spouse means here, if they cross that, there will be trouble. A child means here, but if he crosses that, that also will be trouble. I'm saying for everybody there is a boundary. If they cross that boundary, there is trouble. So in a way, if you really look at it, actually nobody is 100% okay with anybody. So this is the fundamental thing we need to change. People are trying to teach this in roundabout ways, they're saying you must love everybody, you tried, it doesn't work. People say you must be compassionate, be this, be that. All you're trying to do is that you are not in a state of reaction, but you will consciously respond. Or in other words, you want to make your experience of life so pleasant within yourself, no matter who comes, how nasty they are, it will not cause nasty experiences within you. Once you have this insurance that somebody else and something else, either a person or a situation, cannot soar the experience of who you are, only then you're truly open to every kind of experience. Now you have a super soap. You can blow a very big bubble.
But can I ask something?
Yes, sir.
Is that… so you would advise somehow that meditation can help us blow a bigger bubble?
See, once again, this is a very vague term in English language. When you say meditation, if somebody sits here with eyes closed, in English language we say, he's meditating. But with eyes closed, we can do many things. We can do japa, tapa, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, shunya, samyama. Or you may just, as you know, in the universities, they have mastered the art of sleeping in vertical posture. No, no, not in your class, no. So they may be horizontal in your programs.
So it's true that then it becomes… the term meditation becomes kind of meaningless, is what you say, because it stands for…
It is not specific, it's generally saying something. So, let us say you're chanting something. People say that's also meditation. No, that's called japa. Japa, if you do it in another form, the same chanting, it's called tapa, because tapa is used to generate heat in the body. What you were talking about Tibetan monks, most of them are doing tapa because they're using it in a certain way to generate heat in the system. Because if you generate a certain kind of prana or life energy in a certain form, which is called as samat prana, if you generate that, body generates enormous amount of heat. And this heat is not just as temperature, it's called ushna. It activates a certain level of perception, it makes you very healthy, it will allow you to live with very minimal amount of food and water. All these capabilities will come because your samat prana or samana prana is high. That is what generally they are trying to do, they are trying to do tapa. So that is… you want to call that meditation? No, it is tapa. If you do the same thing with a different tilt to it, it becomes japa. If you do dharana, that means you're focused on something, you're concentrating on something, that's called dharana. So if there is you and there is something else, an object, and you're very well focused and you and the object are connected, that means it is dharana. So you are so focused, one of you disappeared, either you disappeared or the object of focus disappeared. It is either just the object or just you, it is merged into one in your experience. Then we call this dhyana. Suppose both disappeared, the observer and that which is observed both disappeared and there's an explosion of energy, this we called as dhyana. Samadhi is called something else and… that is called samadhi. And further samyama, there are various other aspects like this, so I don't want to go into all that stuff. But fundamentally, the word meditation is not saying anything particular. So if we have to put a definition to that, what I would say is, meditation is a certain quality, it is not an act. It is not an act that you perform. It's like fragrance of a flower. The fragrance is a consequence, but because today the world humanity has become so goal-oriented, they want the consequence. They're always aiming towards the consequence. No, you cannot create the consequence. If you do the process properly, consequence happens. Right now, we have eaten well, we are breathing and everything is fine, so life is happening. In a way, our experience of life is a consequence. We are alive because of a consequence of various processes that we are doing right. If you do any of those things wrong, the consequence of experience of life will not be there. So similarly, meditation is a consequence, it is a quality, it cannot be done, but it can be made to happen. If you cultivate your body, if you cultivate your thought process, if you cultivate your emotion and your energies to a certain level of maturity, you become meditative. It is not like in the morning, evening you do meditate, not like that. You become meditative as a quality, you carry it with you. So, if we want to further technically define this, essentially I would say, because I'm assuming meditation means dhyana, it is an assumption, because somewhere you have to fix it, otherwise it is all over the place. If you call it as dhyana, that means if you sit here, in your experience clearly, the body is here, your mind is here, what is you is somewhere else. These three clear, distinct identities. That means there is a distinct separation or space between what is you and what you have gathered in your life. Once this space is there, this is the end of suffering. Because there are only two kinds of suffering in human life, physical suffering and mental suffering. Once there is a distance between you and the body, between you and the mind, this is the end of suffering. Once there is no fear of suffering, that is when you will naturally access what we are referring to as consciousness or chitta, because now you have no fear of suffering. Once there is no fear of suffering, you are willing to climb any peak. It's only the fear of suffering which curtails a human being. Once this possibility of suffering is taken away from you, you would also like to go and see how hell looks, what hell looks like. Because anyway you cannot suffer. Actually, Gautama said this. When people were all talking about going to heaven, attaining to this, he said, you say in heaven everything is wonderful, what will I do there? In hell everybody is suffering, let me go there and see what I can do, because anyway I cannot suffer. So once there is no fear of suffering, you walk full stride in your life. Otherwise, no matter how adventurous people think they are only half a step all the time, because the fear of suffering is always lurking in their minds.
And Sadhguru, do you think that the patients I see in my consultation who are suffering, they have migraine, headaches, anxiety, depression, that they could benefit from meditation, and as now is very popular in Western countries, this mindfulness techniques?
They're already suffering because their minds are too full. They need to come to some sense of abandon, you know. So, each person may be in different level of development, it's not like a general prescription I can make. But becoming meditative, will it help? Absolutely. But can you make them meditative in a clinic? I doubt that. Because you can't suddenly make them meditative. Some people may be ready for it and it may happen. But can you make everybody meditative? A doctor can make somebody meditative with just a few instructions? No, because it will need a certain amount of induction. They have all the ingredients for it to happen, but still it doesn't happen because there's no induction. So there needs to be some charge for them to, get into that place. Somebody may be ready for japa, somebody may be ready for tapa, somebody may be ready for dhyana, dharana. This is an evaluation that has to be made for each individual. If suppose I met somebody, they are 20 years of age, I may teach them something. The same person, he practiced for 3-4 years, he was feeling great and then he gave it up for whatever reasons. Now at 40 years of age, he comes. Now I will teach him something totally different because he's not the same person anymore. He may think he is the same person, but he is not the same person anymore because everything has changed. His perception, his experiences, his accumulations, everything have changed. So accordingly, one has to do this. This has always been the traditional significance of having a live guru so that he will mix the right cocktail for you, otherwise there's no punch.
Thank you. I will go do my yoga.
Don't tell me now.
There's been a very fascinating discussion. I can go on and on. I have so many burning questions, but I think it's been more than an hour and a half. So I'd like to wrap up.
at least one thing I would like to see you, Stephen, do is at least bring into discussion about using the term wakefulness as a way of different levels of wakefulness in your practice and in neurology world, and then leave consciousness out completely. And that way, probably you can explain so many things in your lab and what you're finding and how we have been successful in restoring some of the comatose patients back to their normal lives. So thank you so much for doing your work and also being open to explore this aspect with Sadhguru and us. It's just, there's so much more. He's an ocean by himself.
As your lab machines improve, one day you may be able to raise the dead, huh? Because it's just another level of wakefulness and sleep.
Like my favorite philosopher says, James Bond, never say never.
I didn't think you're English, huh?
Married to a Canadian psychologist.
After the Brexit, you must change your philosopher, okay?
Thank you so much.
Stephen.
Thank you so much.
Bala, thank you very much. Human experience upon this planet is essentially the way our sense organs perceive something. Whatever we perceive, if it is pleasant upon our senses, we experience it one way. And what we perceive, if it is unpleasant upon our senses, then that is what in our experience becomes filth. So if our surroundings are not clean, or in other words, if our surroundings are not pleasant upon our senses, the images that we create in our mind, the projections that happen upon our experiencing mechanism or the seat of our experience is unpleasant. When you create unpleasantness like this, then to go into blissful states of experience or to take charge of the seat of experience so that you can consciously generate the nature of your experience, or you can consciously dictate the nature of your experience will become difficult. Spiritual process essentially means just this, that everything that you are will happen consciously. That is, your experience of life is determined by you. Because your experience of life is determined by you, whether you're peaceful or disturbed is not determined by the atmosphere. Whether you're happy or unhappy is not determined by the nature of what's happening around us. Whether you're miserable or joyful is also determined essentially by what you're doing with yourself, within yourself. If this has to happen, it is important that our sense organs are not perceiving something as unpleasant. So creating a clean atmosphere is a natural consequence of people turning spiritual. As a part of this, we have done a lot of work. In the yogic culture, shaucha is an important aspect of one's spiritual development, both physiological and the surrounding spaces. Being in a state of shaucha is very important because our cleanliness is not just within the body. Everything that we perceive through sense organs can either create filth or well-being within ourselves. Based on this, much has happened. We at Isha have created an exemplary sense of cleanliness in people around us. In all the 53,000 villages in Tamil Nadu, we've brought this sense of cleanliness in what is happening there. You can see very distinctly that what it may be in other places, if you enter the places or villages where a certain amount of spiritual movements have happened, there is a certain sense of cleanliness. both of the way people are about personal hygiene and public spaces, there is a difference. Still there is a lot to be done, but I feel the biggest lapse is there is no system to deal with the garbage that is generated in any living society. And of course, we have the problem of multiplying population, but this can be dealt with only if there are very strong, non-religious spiritual movements in the country, so that people understand life is about keeping yourself clean. When this idea sinks deep into you, wanting to keep the surroundings clean is a natural consequence of this. What is the difference between Shiva and Buddha is not an appropriate question. Which aspect of Shiva did Buddha explore? He explored the path of awareness, which is one aspect. It's very unidimensional, but the significance of Gautam Buddha is, he's very scientific, clinical. He appeals to the logical mind. But he's like… He also said like this, many times he was an ascetic, he just sat, unmoving. But many times he was mad, dancing, drunk. He was in all kinds of states. Because he didn't limit himself to any particular dimension, he just explored every aspect of life. But unfortunately, I am always strongly feeling about this. This is one being who has not been sufficiently acknowledged for the work that he has done, not as a god, for the work that he has done, for the knowledge that he spread, for the capability and empowerment that he did to humanity, the work that he did on human consciousness, for that he's not been sufficiently acknowledged. That's one of my wishes, that in the next 100 years, this one being must find more acknowledgement, because what he has done, no other being has done on this planet, no other. I have enjoyed being his partner, and I know the depth and the dimension of his work. He has not found even a fragment of acknowledgement that he deserves. Just saying somebody is a god is not good. As a being, what work he has done, he needs to be acknowledged for that. Generally it's believed this is somewhere 40 to 60,000 years ago that he started his work. But after 60,000 years or 40,000 years, it is still alive, you can't kill it. You still can't kill it, isn't it? By the time I am done with my life, I'm sure I will leave him little more popular than the way he… Yoga for love, Namaskar process. The word yoga means union, union of all polarities, of masculine and feminine, yin and yang, individual and universal, Shiva, Shakti, right brain and left brain, or whatever else you may want to call them. To achieve this blessed union, the simplest form is the yoga of Namaskar. Putting the two hands together in alignment with each other at the level of your heart will bring you to a certain harmony between polarities within. That in turn brings a sense of being united with whoever or whatever the Namaskar is aimed at. In placing your hands together, the dualities of your likes and dislikes, your cravings and aversions are leveled out, and there is a certain oneness to the experience of who you are. For a few minutes every day, put your hands together in Namaskar, look upon someone or something that means much to you, maybe the sun, the moon, the clouds, the empty sky, the trees, the rock, your husband, your wife, your child, your mother, father, or a picture that matters to you. Look at that someone or something with the highest level of emotion that you can generate in an attitude of loving attention. Hold namaskar for 3 to 5 minutes. Your life will be on a transformational mode. Once a human being becomes more and more aware of his own nature, he understands to experience love, to experience blissfulness, to experience ecstasy, even to experience orgasmic ways of life. You don't need anybody actually. What you can do and what you cannot do. Nobody else can decide for you, nor can you decide. Because when we say what you can, we're talking about a capability. Capabilities are never stagnant. Capabilities can be constantly enhanced. So, there's really no limit as to what one can do, because capabilities can be constantly enhanced. Better to look at it in terms of, am I holding myself back for concerns other than what I want? Many human beings, you have seen people who are historically known as great beings. This is all that happened to them. They were living with a limited identification, suddenly for some reason, some event broke their identities and suddenly they identified with a larger process that was happening around, and they did things that they themselves could not imagine. For example, Mahatma Gandhi, a very limited man, he could not make a living. He got qualified as a lawyer. I remember what he wrote when he when he went out to fight his first case in the court in India. He says, I stood up to argue my case and my heart sank into my boots. This was his expression. And of course he lost the case. Then he decided this law is not for him. He must seek some other profession because he doesn't have the courage to stand up and speak in a courtroom. Does that sound like Mahatma Gandhi? The man just moved millions of people, just one incident. Suddenly his old identities broke. He went to South Africa to make a living and he was doing okay as a lawyer. And one day he bought a first-class ticket in a train and got in. And he travelled some distance. In the next station somewhere, a white South African got in and he didn't like a brown-skinned man sitting in a first class, so he called the ticket collector. Ticket collector said, get out. Mahatma Gandhi said, I have a first-class ticket. He said, it doesn't matter, just get out. He said, no, I have a first-class ticket, why should I get out? So they threw him out of the train. His luggage and everything, they just threw him out. And he fell on the platform. And he just sat there for hours. Why did this happen to me? I bought a first-class ticket, why am I thrown out of a train? Suddenly he identified himself with a larger predicament of the people. Till then, his survival, his law, his making money was all important. Suddenly he identified with a much larger problem that existed, and he became a colossus. Just broke that little identification and moved into a much larger identity. Probably there has never been another man on this planet who moved as many people as Mahatma Gandhi moved, with such simple ways. I don't call him a spiritual person, but socially, politically, absolutely relevant for that day. Never before another conquering force on the planet has been made to vacate the land where they had taken roots without firing bullets at them or killing them or anything like this. Never before such a thing has happened. People who have conquered the land have conquered at a certain price. They won't go easy. They won't go easy. But it was made to look as if they went easy. It didn't happen easy, but without fighting, without bloodshed, because the man could move people into that kind of action, but a kind of passive action. See, shooting at the soldiers who are carrying guns is one thing. Throwing bombs at them is another thing. But just going there, standing on the street and willing to be beaten down on the heads with cracked skulls, you fall down, one line of people fall down, the next line of people come and give their skulls to be broken again, is a completely different kind of strength. It's not easy. It takes a very deep inner strength for a person to do that. Dying in fighting is different. You're also fighting, somebody else also is fighting with you, you get killed, that's a different thing. Without fighting, just going and getting killed is a very different thing. That's what he managed to do. And all that happened to him was from his small identity of himself and his family and wanting to make a living, his identity just exploded, identifying with the larger problem of the people that was there at that time. So, don't put a limit on yourself as to what you can do and what you cannot do. You do everything that you can do. What does not happen is what you could not do, isn't it? What did not happen is what you could not do, isn't it? But you did everything possible, everything that you can imagine. Still some things didn't happen. Those are things you cannot do.
So, Sadhguru, you are so reverent and you are so cherished. Do you ever get a superiority complex?
Right now, yes. See, the question is not about superiority complex, inferiority complex, poverty complex or wealthy complex. That you have a complex is a serious problem, isn't it? Whatever kind it is. What a complex means is, you have assumed something about yourself and you have concretized that assumption in such a way you make a bloody fool of yourself wherever you go. Do I look like that? Hello? Do I look like I'm making a bloody fool of myself with you? No. No. So, no complex of any kind.
But then our confidence fluctuates every day. So, what do you have to say about
Because I don't have any confidence about anything. I just have clarity. People think I have knowledge. No, my head is empty. That's why to make it look little substantial, I have a turban. It's totally empty always. But I have clarity. Clarity means what? You see things the way they are. Knowledge means what? You have fixed information about everything. If things have changed, you will not see it the way it is. That's as good as being blind. See, people think owls are blind. Not true. Their vision is far more sensitive than yours. But because of sunlight, they're blinded because it's too much. When light goes down, he sees very clearly. Not because he's blind, because his eyes are super sensitive. So, it's important that you bring clarity to your life, not knowledge, because knowledge is conclusions that you gather. Knowledge is okay when you're trying to do something physical, material in the world, but not with life. Is it true what you thought was absolute at the age of 12, today is not true? So no? Are you sure that whatever you think is this is it right now, will be this is it in another 3 years' time?
Of course not.
You know that. So you know you're wrong. Yes or no?
Yes.
So you know anyway you're wrong. So why assert the wrong things? Well, right now we are wrong, at least let's manage with little more conscious. If you know you're wrong, you will walk carefully, isn't it? Hello? But you think you're absolutely correct, then you will do stupid things and you blunder around the world. If you know you're not seeing properly, will you walk carefully or no? If I ask you to walk through a dark room, suppose we turn off all the lights and close it down, everything, pitch dark, if I ask you to walk, suddenly will you become super alert and conscious as to how you walk? But when the lights are on, you're just going unconsciously, bumping into everybody. So if you learn to walk every moment, like there are no lights and you're looking at everything absolutely carefully, then what you see clearly, you go through it, what you don't see clearly, you hesitate, some places you take a little bit of chance. But if you are just confident, you will blunder through life, we don't know where you will get it, what you will get trapped into. Most people are trapped into their professions, their family situations, their social situations in such a way, they all became like this. Yes, already I'm saying, not just older people, youth have become like this. What will happen to me at the end of my life? What will happen to me at the end of my life? I'm already revealed the secret, you will die. But Sadhguru, if this happens, what to do? If that happens, what to do? All those things will happen. It's not that everything will happen in your life the way you like it, things will happen in the way you don't like it. It once happened, Shankaran Pillai got fired from his job simply because he asked a question, smoking or non-smoking? How can you get fired for asking such a simple question? Smoking or non-smoking, he asked, and he got fired. Because what he was supposed to ask was cremation or burial. So, many times what you do, thinking I'm right, may be irrelevant to the situation in which you exist. So the most important aspect of your life is you're relevant, not right. You're just relevant. To the existing situation, you're relevant. I am right, I am right, I am right. This is confidence. You being right, nobody cares. All the idiots who think they're right, nobody wants to listen to them, nobody wants to be around them, isn't it? People who always think, I'm right, you want to be around them? No, the important thing is you're relevant to the situation in which you exist. If you have to bring relevance into your life, you must extinguish your confidence and bring clarity. To develop clarity, there are many systems. See, to develop your muscle, there are systems, isn't it? Similarly, to develop clarity, there are many systems. Unfortunately, our education system is dulling clarity in so many ways. Some of the research studies in the university shows that If a child goes to kindergarten and goes through 20 years of education, I'm sorry, I'm saying this in an educational institution, 20 years of education and comes out, let's say, with a PhD, they are saying 70% of their intelligence is irrevocably destroyed. So you have a knowledgeable idiot. What do you do with this? Well, you can impress people by throwing information. But this whole game of impressing people, throwing this information and that information around is all going to go because that Google lady is better than any of these idiots. Hello? It's really amazing. I am just traveling to wherever, let's say I'm flying to United States or Africa or somewhere, I just ask, what is the morning temperature in Entebbe? I'm landing there. Without batting an eyelid, in 2 seconds, she tells me it's 14 degrees centigrade and by afternoon it's 18 degrees centigrade, by evening it's again 12 degrees centigrade. Who could ever see this? Hello? She may not be perfectly right, but she's almost there. So, people who are carrying a basket of information on their head and feeling superior, I want you to understand this in this country and everywhere else in the world. In not the previous but the previous generation, somebody who could read a book was seen godlike because everybody else was illiterate. And people thrived simply because they can read the Gita or the Bible or something else. They thrived simply because they can read. But once everybody can read, we are ignoring those people completely. Yes or no? Hello? So, people who are carrying information and feeling superior, they will all be made into nothing in the next 15 to 20 years' time. Once artificial intelligence becomes all over the place, information will mean nothing because it'll be available everywhere. By then, you must be competent to do something beyond information. This is why I'm with you.
In a world full of cuts, short videos, and distractions, you chose to stay and listen until the end. That already says a lot about your willingness to look deeper. Drop your city in the comments, and if you'd like, subscribe and share this video with someone who's also not afraid to think. Thank you, a big hug to you, and see you in the next video.